Because just to add in a way as in segue to this is in the whole aspect of looking after ourselves and taking care of ourselves. That again, hence I said at the beginning is in whose standard we following. There's that narrative also as in who's pushing that message of that standard, because obviously there is some kind of agenda behind that. But what I hence again I say if you look at this in as you said is in
Yeah.
for who are you to judge? Because if those standards are imposed on people, it's more of then it's a matter of shaming people into that rather than saying, okay, she's different, I'm different. He may not fully agree with anything of what I believe and what I do, but if we share ideas, he may take some things that he finds value in it. Because in a if in a utopian society, in an
Okay.
ideal world, how it's supposed to work, in my opinion, is good ideas people practice. Bad ideas will filter away if you allow it. But unfortunately, because there is a profit motive or an ideological motive to spread your own personal belief for your own gain to society, the
Mm-hmm.
bad ideas are retained because it's serving a purpose of pushing whatever agenda is out there for whatever aspect. Because that's one of my criticism, for example, of in the spiritual view of taking care of yourself, as in organized religion is I have a problem with organized religion now because
Mm.
if you're reading the dogmas and what they say and they're telling you how to live your life, the hypocrisy that is there, yet they still preaching this is the funny part. And also how I look at it is certain religions ignore human nature. They want you to suppress it and not necessarily work with it. Because one thing or I actually appreciate about Buddhism and also what I appreciate about any religion that practices this or preaches this is that humans are part of life, right? Life is all about flow in the right way. There's again coming to that whole word of balance for the whole thing of every action there's an equal reaction, for
Yeah.
everything is in for you recognize that if you kill this animal, you will eat, but you will shit it out. And then if you make sure that the carcass of that animal is put in a place where it'll get, taken by the earth properly, it carries on that
Yeah.
cycle
Other
of life.
animals.
And
Yeah.
and you don't overdo it also. You realize that you can't just be hunting these animals over and over for your own indulgence because I love eating that wild animal or that wild deer or the wild buck, the antelope. I need to finish it. Instead of being moderate and realizing, what, there's this excess. For example, talking about the whole consumerism, right? As in,
Mm-hmm.
we are in that age of hyper consumerism. Those are the things where we, as individuals, therefore society, need to say enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to have an iPhone every year? Why? There's no need. How? Why must companies design products that will systematically stop working after a couple of years because they need you to buy
To
it
buy the
again?
next one and keeping you on this leash and just like come back again,
You know
come
what I
here,
mean?
come
And
here.
that feeds into your mental health being affected. Therefore, you could say your physical also, because it then displays the your mental issues are displayed
Mm.
physically. So all of those things play a role because again, if the food that we have is now all moderately, sorry, all was it GMOs, right? And they're all being modified like this, they actually now are systematically creating food that will drive a particular type of urge in you.
Yeah, and
Therefore,
ultimately controlling how you think, how you
it
feel.
makes you more susceptible
Yeah.
to those thoughts. So, for example, when they say are men, for example, just to say are men and women now getting more mature early physically? Because if you look at little girls at such a young age, at 11, 12, not to say it didn't happen back in the day, but it's happening more often now where a friend of mine who has a daughter was telling me, man, that his daughter is 10 years old and
Mm.
she's already having periods. I was like, what?
It's crazy. It's
Like,
crazy.
god
It's like
damn.
these natural things that should be occurring are happening much quicker. I remember as a kid, like I would always be thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm 16 and I'm this size, like kind of small bodied, and you say 16. American 16-year-old American on TV, and you're like, fuck, this guy's huge. Does he play basketball or something? It's like, what the hell? What are you guys eating? You know, and now as guys as well, I mean, it can get tricky, bro. You could say a young girl, but she looks old, features well developed and shit, and yo, like, who are you just visually right or wrong to say, like, no, based on these features you should be within a certain age group, but turns out she's younger, you know? So I mean, that obviously ties on a whole lot of other shit like consent and finding out people's ages, things like that. But like, yo, bruh, I
People,
see it.
yeah,
It's a
people.
real thing. It's a
So
real
so
thing.
if again, to hammer the home this point of how food can genetically modify you, therefore mentally and spiritually, it there speaks to that thing as in the resistance, as in, so it's all starts with the stuff that is in your control, the food that you eat or where you buy it and how you can cultivate your community if possible to, if you're realizing all the shops that you have around are feeding you crap or giving you crap, you're only surrounded by crappy things. Find a way then to gather the community. If you really feel passionate about it and you want to do something about it instead of just talking, how about gather your community, find a way to galvanize and canvas people to actually do something, because that's your prerogative now, as in you see something wrong. And the best thing is, if you are true to what you believe in and you really believe in what you think is right, and people agree to it, and you're fervent,
That becomes
ideally
your
you should
ritual.
succeed. But I'm saying perseverance is important also. So you need to still fight that for that, as in people can understand, because certain, again, narratives and the messaging that we get is making people blind. It's like the Matrix. We have fed into this world where we thought
Things are certain
things are a
way.
certain way and this is fixed. Don't ever think outside of this box, but you should think outside
You
of this
should
box,
challenge it.
because the physical capabilities of humans are still unknown. We don't know the full potential of what a human is capable of, because there's that mental things. For example, when people speak about how spiritually they get linked or how they feel somebody's wrong or something's wrong, and they pick up the phone, hey, I thought I just called you, and then that call, you save somebody's life. Who knows? Because there's that spiritual link. See, for me as an agnostic person, I can appreciate that there is a higher power, and recognizing there's a higher power, which I don't want to define according to what organized religion says. However, I'm going to look at it in the sense of there's certain aspects of life that is unexplainable scientifically or any logical sense. It is a more of a spiritual thing, and only the spirit understands, as in people, if you just say out loud, man, I can speak to a person, by just thinking, and then they manifest or they come and they call me. Some people will say it's coincidence and just dismiss that. But you could also go deep and say this is actually your spirits talking on a deeper plane. We don't know. We really don't know.
You can't see it.
You can't comprehend it as yet. Maybe we might. Who knows? In a couple of centuries or 1,000 years, who knows? But the point is, there's such a deeper aspect to this. That you cannot dismiss it. As in, when they're talking again, you're talking about the chakras. As in, what blocks your energy points affects you. Because if your mind is or your spirit, so there's this circle that some people call him like a fake guru or whatever, but I like his concept of what he's talking about, the mind, right? Bob Proctor. He talks about a mind as in, it's in two halves. There's a subconscious part and then there's a conscious part, right? So you need to like force feed your conscious mind with positivity, hence the positive affirmations, consistently with the work, okay? Not just positively say, oh, I'm going to win the Lotto, I'm going to win the Lotto, and you're not doing anything about it. The point is, you not only you filling your conscious mind with positivity, but you also in action doing things to put yourself in good positions. Therefore, when it seeps into your subconscious, therefore that speaks to your spirit, and then your spirit drives you, gives you that energy and that belief. Because how many times
It's who you are now.
yeah, how many times have you heard of people saying, man, I just had a second wind and I just found a way, even though the whole thing of adrenaline, how people can do things that you don't expect them to do. People jumping way higher than they should before they wait, because you can say physically there's the adrenaline rush, but there's that spiritual adrenaline also that
It's an energy that they were able to tap into, and obviously energy is transferred, so they tapped into it, took it in, and boom, it's like going Super Saiyan.
and you can't do
You
that.
perform.
And you can do, and now if you have blockers to that energy where you cannot access it, as you said, tapping in, you need to obviously find a way to tap in. But if there are
Unblock.
things that are blocking you from tapping into that spiritual energy, I would argue, your physical and your emotional state of mind impact your spirit, because your spirit is that eternal engine that gives you reason to live or reason to fight, to have that desire to prosper. Where does your ambition come from? For you, I don't think ambition is something that is bred into you. It's
Yeah.
something that is within. You are the one who makes your own ambition. You the one who has the drive of, that's what I want, I'm gonna go for it. And then you find a way. You don't take no for an answer. And you're kicking
Yeah.
ass, you're taking names. You know what I mean? That type of mentality for those people. How many times have you heard of motivational speakers or billionaires or artists or whatever always talking about, I pushed and pushed, I slept in my
I
car,
became-
you know what I mean? I overcome, I
Yeah, I'm super
overcome.
strong.
You know what I mean?
You know how I'm looking at it is, I thought about so many things as you were talking, but one big thing that I do want to say is how you were saying that we were speaking about challenging the status quo, what we're following, and so on. So to achieve that balance, firstly, I feel we need to challenge it. For us to have even so many belief systems and belief systems within belief systems, like all the different types of Christian, for example, it's to say people took certain parts of what worked for them and they made it their own. So that's why I'm very much for, whether you're atheist, whether you're devout to whatever belief, whatever opposite side of the spectrum it is, you're going to choose what is good for you, right? But then another part that bothers me, which I think touches on why we're at this place that we're at, is to say a lot of the core fundamental teachings of maybe what it means to be human, what it means to have a spirit, how to look after yourself, going from inside out. Because like we're saying, if the inside is the main, then that's where self-care should start. Viewing yourself internally, because I always have this view that we are limitless, we are everything, we are like universes within ourselves, we are energy vibrating. So why would we not be limitless? There's a line that I love saying, which is I'm only constrained by self-imposed limitations, meaning that if I was to think in that box, like the Matrix, like you're saying, then I can only function within that space. But if I am to abstract or take myself out of that, then look at it bigger. It's like, oh shit, there's so much more to this world or to me that I'm still yet to discover or learn. So it really boils down to your education, your level of exposure and perspective. Do you know enough, or have you seen enough to form a greater opinion of the world and what you are and what you can become? Imagine that guy who stays in the hood and the finest chick he's ever seen is in a movie, versus that guy who actually got to travel the world and speak to these people. The one in the hood might look at that chick and think, oh, she's unattainable. It's a
It's a
destined
mindset
far
thing,
thing, you know
right?
what I mean?
Yeah.
But then that guy who went there was like, nah, man, I can get myself into those spaces. I can be shoulder to shoulder with these
So
people.
what you're saying, just to interject, you're speaking to those confinements spiritually, but now I would say those are confinements, let's say, in the physical world, in
Yeah.
the sense of, see, let's talk about the guy in the hood, because I'm actually I want to dive into that one, as in, I'm more interested in liberating that man or that woman, right? To basically
Break out of that thinking,
out of
or
that
extend
thinking.
or expand
Because
it.
you see, how many times have we heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, they made it from the hood. Great stuff. Good for you. You've made it. Great." However, how many other people are you pushing with you, though?
I mean,
Or are you shutting the door? Because that speaks, you see, that speaks to that whole self care. Because you're not only because you have done enough work. It's also, and here's the thing. It's
Yeah.
for me. I say it's all about being selfish. At the end of the day, it's still self care in the sense of if I help you, it still helps me because rather let's look at it honestly. As in at the and one of our key traits as humans is selfishness because
Yeah.
self preservation is a huge thing for us. Hence, we will be more selfish in certain instances unless it's your offspring. But if it's in a room of strangers, you're looking out for number one, right?
You.
So because of that, how I look, what I'm saying is that how many times have you heard the story? A person makes out of a disadvantaged environment and they shut the door behind them. And that's what I'm saying is in by you shutting the door, you're not actually taking care of yourself properly because by doing that, you are now putting yourself in an exclusive situation where people will look at you in a negativity. Hence, then you always hear people, "Oh, I got haters. People are hating on me," and you're like, "Hold up, hold up. Why are people hating on you? Be not just say people are hating you because you
Because I'm
are
doing something
successful.
right.
You know what I mean? And I hate that saying of I've heard that saying paraphrasing as in oh if you don't have haters you're not doing something right. I'm like that doesn't make
It's crazy.
sense.
Yeah. It's
That does not
crazy.
make sense. Why? And or people say even Jesus had haters. I'm like, so what if Jesus had haters? That does not make sense because you don't need to try and justify having hate to have negativity in that sense. Because in my view, it's good to have an amicable situation. Okay, as in, why do you need to be that guy who's going or girl who's gonna shut the door? Why not open it, leave it open, encourage people? Fair enough. You may have people, and here's the thing: sometimes it's not necessary that people hate you. It's maybe because of your personality. Have you
Yeah,
ever maybe
just who you are, how you
it's
carry
maybe your
yourself.
personality, as in it rubs them off the wrong way. Because my experience, right? I'm not the most, let's say, sociable, Mr. Likeable type of person out there, right? Um, so, but once you speak to me a couple of times, you'll realize, okay, he's this type of dude. And for me, it's not a matter of hate. It's just, it is what it is. I can accept that people are different. And sometimes it's okay to just say, you know what, gee, I'm not fond of your mentality, but I don't hate you, and therefore I don't want to associate. And there's no need to comment further than that. So, and it's okay. See, that's one of the
But
things.
you see,
Yeah.
for me, I think it needs a certain type of person to be able to get to that level of understanding. Like we're different and it's okay. Someone who is lacking perspective or understanding might be like, "Oh, you're different from me. You're a threat. I'm gonna pop you right now."
But that's what I'm
Or
getting to.
I,
As in,
I'm
that opening of the door I'm mentioning is not only opening the door of opportunities, but opening a door of knowledge also. As in, this is where you see to stop that type of mentality, which you what you're mentioning. We require that education and reaching out and saying, "I am not your enemy. I know you're not liking me, but I'm offering my olive branch. I want to make peace with you. I don't know why you don't like me. Let me find out. Maybe I could learn from you. If you come from a positive place rather than a place of arrogance, as in, oh, you're a hater. I don't care. I don't want to hear. Because here's the thing: there is maybe a kernel of truth for people not liking you in a particular way. Because if you actually find out, maybe people don't like you because certain things about you are actually negative, which you need to kind of maybe or or
yeah,
toxic
watch
trait.
yourself.
Maybe it's a time to learn. Take that time to realize as in maybe my so-called haters actually are just critics who are showing me that this is an area of improvement. Because you can never be
Yeah,
100%, right? We always learning, we always improving.
of course.
So this, like you said, to get to that stage, to be that person, to get to the stage where you understand it's okay to be different, or let's let bygones be bygones. That's what I'm saying is in the more people we have, let's say, being preachers of this type of mindset, in my idealistic view, this is where you get less frustration because a lot of problems are due to lack of communication, right?
Of course, communication is king, and it will ultimately lead to misunderstanding if there's not enough of it or there's not enough context to it. So I'm totally with you, 100%. I was just thinking about like the good and bad of actually going back to the hood or going back to uplift whichever community or place you came from, and on one side it might be like, yo, it's like I think a lot of artists even talk about it like, yo, I left my hood because I can't go back to that lifestyle of drugs, prostitution, whatever it is. And as soon as you, with your affluence, come back to the hood, it's like, so you're not cool anymore. You're not one of the guys. And, maybe on the one side of the spectrum, just playing devil's advocate, they might not help because it will pull them back into the life that they worked so hard to get out of. You know, on the other side of the spectrum, like you're saying, it's about how you're received, how your intentions or your energy lands. It's like a seed on fertile soil versus a seed on like soil where there's erosion. I mean, the chances of something growing or sprouting from that will work better on the fertile soil, of course. So it's like, what other things are you putting out or instilling in those people to make it possible to achieve that positive outcome? So I'm not saying it's not possible, but I do see both sides of it where, yes, the one side is, okay, we're going to move and help these people. But the other side is like, okay, helping them is actually to my detriment sometimes. Even with rappers, how many of these rappers that we know who've died maybe in the past couple of years, who've died in their neighborhoods, in their hometowns? It's like, oh fuck, I worked so hard to leave here and now I come back. You're thinking, nah, it's my city. I carry my city wherever I go. I represent them and shit. But there
No,
you
you know
are
what?
in your flipping neighborhood, bro.
That's a fair point about
You
coming
know?
from toxic environment. That's fair. How I can maybe rebuttal is what I'm just to clarify in my rebuttal is in what I mean by opening a door and going back and helping. You don't necessarily have to go back to your hood, but identify people who want change. Because here's the thing: you
And work
cannot,
with them.
yes, you cannot change people who don't want to change. You cannot force change,
True.
right? You cannot force people to do things. I don't believe in force. I believe in persuasion, and I believe in making people change their mind by giving sound arguments, give pros and cons, and being honest and open it up. Let people decide. Even if they decide something that you don't want and you really don't want them to do it, it is not for you to make a decision unless it's your child, you're a guardian over them. That's different. However, if it's another adult that you're dealing with and they don't want to do what you feel is the right thing to do, back off. So that's where how I'd answer you is in I believe in identify people who want to change, because there's a lot of people who say, I try to help this person. Oh, this person I try to help. They back in their life. I don't care about people. I'm not gonna help these type of people anymore. Cause every time I try to help, wow. I'll make an example. Look at the thing of people stressing themselves and putting themselves in situations where they don't need to. If you look at beggars and that we have on the robots and whatever,
Tons of these
right.
people.
So
My
let me
word.
give you an actual true story. When I was still like in high school, we went to the mall. My father, I see this guy begging, whatever. He says, "Hey, come clean my yard. I'll pay you. I'm not gonna give you bread. I'm not gonna give you money that you're begging for. Come, I'll get work, get a skill. I'm gonna help you." That's what my father said to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Dude pitched up first day, first weekend. Right? Following weekend didn't pitch up. Next weekend didn't pitch up. We see him at the mall again. My father's like,
What's your story?
he's
Look,
like,
you
he
back
looks
at
at him. He's
this.
like, the F is this, and he says, and he told me that time. He's like, listen here, you can't help people if they don't want to be helped. So don't force it. He saw him. He actually like, hey, how are you? The guy maybe looked. I don't remember. I think he looked embarrassed, but that's just maybe my vague memory playing with me. But the point is, my father was not angry. He was not like, how dare you? No, he accepted that I took a risk.
You tried.
Didn't work out. I'm not gonna force it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I try to help person in the best way that I think so. They didn't follow my method. I accept it. I move on. You see what I mean? As in, that's why
Mm-hmm.
then you was saying to me, as in, it's best to always help people who want to be helped. So if a person says, "Man, I'm so desperate for a job," you go, "Okay, you need my help?" You say, "Yes." Say, "Are you ready though to change?" Because there's certain aspect of your personality that I've observed that will require major change, panel beating, in order for you to get a job. If you're ready, I can help you. Are you ready? If a person basically ums and ahs, then you know, hey, bro, you may take it's at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
But if they like, yes, I'm ready, then you say it's gonna get tough to change, because change is not easy. Because there's a lot of
Yo,
things you have to let go, which is part of that whole healing process. You know, the whole
becoming, yeah.
becoming who you are. when you do your self development and you try to realize how to get better, those are the things that speak to you, as in when you have to let go of those core beliefs that are toxic.
Yeah.
Or or I wouldn't say toxic per se, but more of you realize these behaviors are not good for you. They may be good for somebody else, but not for you. So you need to let go, but it's very hard.
It's true because I think the point you're touching on, which is so important, is that self-care is work, bruh. Self-care is fucking work. This is like a constant like decision that you have to take. It's like how you wake up and decide to be happy because you want a positive reaction, you want to behave positively, you want to receive positivity. You know, it's that whole transfer of energy. If I put out positive, I'll get positive back. But self-care is work, bruh. Like you're saying, it needs intention. It needs you to be deliberate. And if somebody is not ready to do that work, I mean, it's so easy to default into what's easy, to what you're comfortable doing, and what society has made you believe is okay or what's right for you to do. So you could just be like, oh, like this guy, first time I'm here, I'm motivated. And it's like, it falls away. So if, like, for example, that like ambition or motivation could be hereditary, focus is not.
I would say no.
Focus
I would
is
say
not.
it is hereditary in a
Because
sense.
no, I mean, like
Yeah.
the guy needs to stay focused because like you can fuel yourself up with the knowledge. You can know all the things you need to do. I need to eat proper. I need to gym. I need to,
But if you don't
I
do-
need to believe. I need to check on myself. I need to meditate. Check my therapist, whatever. But if you don't stick to that thing,
If you don't do
well,
consistency,
it's like gym. It's like gym. Like how many people that I've spoken to, like especially now that I'm like researching gym, different ways to gym and all of that. It's like they'll tell you if I don't gym, if I'm off for like a week, I need to gym like another month just to recover that week that I was off or some shit like that. And it's
True
like,
that.
you see what I mean? So it's like you can fall off the wagon so easily if you don't,
all it takes is 1 week.
yeah, if you don't stick to that ritual, regimen, whatever little construct you've put for yourself, like this is what works for me, this is my self-care, keeps me sane, keeps me healthy, keeps me at all the optimum levels for whatever it is that I need. It's work, bro. And for me, like fuck, when I think about this, I think about those people who we look at as so focused, so disciplined. I think there's freedom in discipline, which is great, but like, do we check on those people enough?